Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cultivate Lasting Sales Relationships with Authenticity. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I am a program assistant here at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. So as you will see in the chat in a moment, the NASDAQ Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. And then just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you are dialing in from in the chat. We always love to connect. And second, we are going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event. So please make sure to submit your questions for us in the bottom of your screen in that Q&A function throughout the presentation and conversation. We'll try to our best to get to all of them. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Wells Fargo, the Nareet Foundation, Walmart.org, JP Morgan Chase, BPM, HubSpot for Startups, and Google Cloud. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, we always like to launch just a couple polls to step back, see how everyone here in the room is doing today. This first one is going to ask, how are you feeling about your business? How are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? I'll give it just a few more moments here for folks to respond. Thank you, thank you. All right, I'm going to end this poll and share these results. All right, looks like optimism coming up in the lead. Always great to see, but definitely have some feelings of fear, anxiety, and surviving. So hopefully, no matter what you're feeling, you can see that you are not alone. And hopefully our conversation today will help alleviate some of those fearful, anxious, and surviving feelings that we're having in the crowd. So I'm going to stop sharing this poll and launch the second one. What is keeping you up at night? Finance, sales, marketing, scale, pivot, team, or surviving? And this one just tells us a little bit more about your current entrepreneurial needs so we can make sure that the programs and resources we're developing continue to be meaningful for all of you. Awesome. We got folks from Texas, DC, New Orleans, Louisiana, New Jersey, Marlboro, New York, Atlanta, Georgia, New Jersey, California, Columbus, Ohio, Georgia, California, Florida. Welcome, welcome. So great to have everyone dialing in from all over. Love it. Wonderful. Well, I'll give it one more moment on this poll before closing it out. All righty. All right, I'm going to end this poll and share these results. Awesome. Yep, finance sales coming up in the lead. Very fitting for our topic today. But we got needs all across the board here as well. So thank you all so much for sharing. Really helpful. And without any further delay, please join me in welcoming our first guest, Frank Bastone. Frank, such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Super excited.
Super excited to be here.
Awesome. And before we dive right in, maybe you could give us, 30 to 60 seconds on who you are and what's kind of brought you to the world of sales and AI.
Sure. So I've been in sales for the last 20 years, and for the last 15 years, I've been a fractional CRO working with small startup companies and mid-sized companies to help optimize their sales workflows, hire salespeople, and train salespeople. And In that time, I've developed some frameworks that I share with my clients, and I talk a lot about being authentic and creating real relationships with clients, connecting with them and sort of shortening not only the sales cycle, but the relationship cycle, which I talk about a lot.
Love it. Amazing. Well, Frank, just to kick us off, our topic today, we're talking about authenticity in sales, and it's such a relevant topic, as the glaring issue, or not necessarily issue, but market dynamic shift is this introduction of AI technology. And so with this kind of need to maintain authenticity among all of these, this new technology that's out there, what are some of the most common mistakes you see founders making when they're, trying to build trust with customers, especially with the help of AI technology, and how can they avoid those kind of mistakes early on?
So AI is amazing and it has a tremendous opportunity to help salespeople to work better, but there are certain things that really only humans can do, and that's building relationships and being creative and connecting with each other. So some of the mistakes that I'm seeing in sales with AI is people are using AI to actually sell and using some of these virtual bots that make phone calls, and they're just not effective enough, especially in the beginning, and it makes your company come off a little bit impersonal. When a lead raises their hand and says, "I want to speak to somebody," and they're a qualified lead, automating that process any further is really diminishing the importance of that person's need. So I use AI to do pre-call research and to get ready and to take notes on my phone calls so I can spend more time connecting with prospects. So I feel like in sales today, AI is an amazing tool to help augment a salesperson, but it's not going to yet replace a salesperson, hopefully for not for a long time.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
some of it's and some of the things I see salespeople doing with AI is trying to use it to sell, and that's not going to work.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, because I know a lot of the first thought that can come to entrepreneurs' mind is like, how can I use AI to make my sales process more efficient, to help me close deals faster? And automation comes to mind very quickly. But that's interesting. Kind of differentiating the idea that, maybe automation is used to, for customer research to help you really like build the foundation for having strong and meaningful conversations versus having it actually have the conversations for you. So that's I think an important distinction. So thank you for bringing that up. Um, and you're spot on, with customers, they want to feel understood and not just sold to. And so, how can founders balance the need to meet, the business goals that they've set for themselves with this desire to create a relationship focused approach that truly addresses customer needs? And I wonder, how these forces maybe add value to each other to strengthen customer relationships rather than kind of taking away, from each other. So I'd love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, we all have sales goals, and we're all under pressure to perform and to make money. But I think the mistake that's commonly made here is that founders, especially if they're selling founders, are spending a lot of time on phone calls with clients and not doing the homework first. So show them you know them in sales. We hear this all the time, and doing the proper amount of research to find out if this client you're getting on the phone with fits within your ICP, and to understand the client a bit and shorten that relationship cycle so that you can move into the sales cycle. They waste a lot of time asking questions that they could find answers to online. So how long someone's been at a company, you know their history and what they've been, you understand their company, and you can understand all these things beforehand. So if you put some time in beforehand, you can spend more quality time with the right customers, and that would lead you to be converting more customers and then not being in a mad rush. Sometimes a founder will be on the phone and say, "Frank, I'm on 9 hours of calls a day and I'm just not closing enough people." And they're not doing really any pre-call research. They're not prepared. So I think that that's huge, and one of the big mistakes. And then with regard to being relationship focused, once you close a client, that's just the beginning. You've
Mhm.
got to delight that client and make them so happy they worked with you and follow up with that client. And when a client is happy, they're going to be sending people, they're going to be giving you good feedback. So if you build 20, 30, 50, 100, super fans, those clients can drive you all the business you need. And when you're in a place where you're saying, wow, I've got to hit a quota, people are calling all these new people and cold calling. When I turn around and say, why don't we call the 100 customers we have who are happy and find out why they like us? So I
Mhm.
think that's a big difference, and you can come off really inauthentic if you're a founder grinding from call to call to call, not really connecting with the prospect, and you're working hard. You're just not working smart.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting and really relevant as I know there's so many entrepreneurs that express to us that time management is one of their biggest issues. And so I think that it can feel tough, when they're like, oh, I have to be making a certain amount of calls each day or each week. And I'm just not getting like the results that I'm hoping for. And that can create that added stress. You're taking time to do this work and not really getting those results. And so it's really interesting to think about how AI can kind of support that process and really help you identify not just the important things to people to communicate with them about, but who are those right people to even spend time with in the first place so that you're not wasting yours and their time. That's really wonderful. Wonderful, awesome. All right. And, I think in general, I'd love to, just quickly get your thoughts on how the landscape of customer relationship building has shifted and will continue to shift with this emergence of AI technology. And what role, specifically does AI kind of play in complicating or assisting this process of building stronger customer relationships? I'd love to hear kind of both sides of it as I know a lot of founders are kind of wondering, pros and cons and how this really could impact, as they're kind of scenario planning for the future.
Yeah, AI is being built into everything. So it's being built into CRM systems and phone systems, and it can be very helpful. It's also being built into a lot of marketing platforms. The problem is it's churning out a lot more generic garbage at a faster rate. Stu, who we'll be talking to in a bit, we talk all the time about how many DMs we get every day with just superficial information that just you can tell it's fake, or
Mhm.
how many text messages you get, and it really turns off. There's something to be said about volume, but it really turns me off, and a lot of people that I know, when you get a message that's impersonal. I think AI is just increasing that exponentially. So we're getting a lot more of this AI generated kind of crap. And if you take AI and you use it to do your pre-call research, get you ready to have a true human connection, that's where it could be really powerful to take notes, like I said, when you're on a call, so you can connect better. But the only way that we're going to be able to do that is by keeping AI out of a lot of the sales function. When, like I said, you have your ICP, you're sending out emails, you're got your lead generation. Someone says, I want to speak to somebody, and a chatbot responds. It's ridiculous. I mean, they want to speak to a person, and they are a person, they raise their hand, and then you're throwing more automation at it, or you're throwing more AI at it. And I think that's where a lot of things get lost, because the founder's like, I'm so busy, this chatbot can help me qualify, and that might be true. But if somebody wants your solution now and is thinking about you right now and raises their hand and wants to speak, you know, throwing more automation back at that person after that is just uh, a real turnoff. And I found it happens more and more and more. So I think those
Yeah,
are like the two
that's
things.
really interesting. There's definitely like a lot of businesses, especially with, like customer service that implement those AI chat bots and it can be a really mixed bag and it's interesting to kind of think about, that decision, can be influenced by, cost savings for the business versus really wanting to connect with with the right customers. And so, really, being intentional about the implementation of those kinds of AI tools across your, customer pipeline is so important. So thank you. Before we introduce our next guest, I wanted to just give you an opportunity to give any, closing thoughts here. Any kind of what your thoughts are as kind of, we move forward into the next year, about how, founders can really maintain authenticity and continue to stand out amongst this oversaturation of automation and technology that's being used to kind of create the bridge between businesses and customers.
Sure. AI is getting smarter every day, and it's going to be a huge force, much like the internet. I'm designing AI agents now, for my clients that are doing a lot of the functions that I train my clients to do. So the important things to look at before a call, getting ready for the call, follow up after the call, and I'm sort of building that all out. And I've got some internal software that we're going to be sharing with clients and eventually others. And if you can take AI and really build it how you want it and have it serve as a helper and not a replacement, it's going to be huge. And I think that as AI agents emerge, which is it's huge, and they're going to be able to do many things inside of a sales function, that we don't lose the humanity of it. And
Yeah.
people are getting less and less comfortable, especially I find younger people that my clients hire, salespeople that I train, they're getting a lot less comfortable with conversations and in-person dialogue, and they're really leaning on these tools and saying, "Oh no, Frank, I'm just going to send out a bunch of text messages." That's not how it ever works. So we grow in the world from human relationships, and until the robots can replace us and put us in prison and Terminator 2 comes around, I think that we should really try to focus on being as human as possible.
Yeah, love it. Amazing, Frank. Thank you so much. And as we are hanging out here, I'd love to introduce our other special guest, Stu Heinecke. Welcome, welcome. We are so excited to have you back on the stage with us. Stu has been on our community classes a couple times now. So welcome back, Stu. Thank you so much for
Thanks.
joining.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. And just, like Frank, would love if you could give, 30 to 60 seconds on who you are.
Sure. Well, I'm the author of How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. That's a good place to start. I'm also one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists and an author, business author, and just found out, in fact, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone was ranked the #1 sales book for prospecting by what is it again? Sales Daily. And wow, they named a lot of really powerful books, and I don't know how I ended up on top, but I'll take it. And so I help. Actually, Frank does this too. We know each other quite well, and we help sales teams break through to people that can change their scale. And I do it through the book. I do it through using cartoons. It probably doesn't seem like they go together, but they actually do. As we'll talk about being human and authentic, especially in the headwinds of I would actually don't even want to call it in the age of AI. They are incredibly powerful devices. They just remain at the top of the heap in terms of those kinds of uses. So yep, that's what I do, and that's why I'm here.
Wonderful. Well, awesome. Well, to keep the conversation going, with AI rapidly changing the way that we connect, across business functions, and you mentioned this idea, this human touch. How can founders kind of find the balance and really make sure that they're using AI, to effectively bolster sales without, losing that trust and authenticity? How do you really define the human touch and what makes that so special?
Well, I think first of all, we should give AI its due. I think it's miraculous, and in sales, it's helping. For example, it's helping us all identify people who really fit our ICP, but then also who are, and this is not really new stuff actually, but who are exhibiting buying signals if we're sellers, and are going through trigger events, and all of those things can be built into our lists that we're using to reach out to the people that are most likely to do business with us, either as investors or as clients. So that's wonderful. That's incredible stuff, and I'm constantly amazed at what AI is doing. It's not a boogeyman. It's not a it's not a bad thing at all. But I do think, as we've been talking about, as Frank's been talking about, we're seeing a lot of evidence of AI being pushed into parts of the sales function where it probably doesn't belong. And so um, I see it a lot in DMs that I get on LinkedIn, for example, and I know they're automated and they do their best to write copy that, hey, listen, Stu, well, I guess they got my name right instead of insert name here.
Yeah.
But listen, I've been looking at your profile, I noticed in your profile that we know a lot of the same people, or you look interesting. We should connect. I think, why? Well, you don't know anything, and that's utterly generic. And so that is sort of the tip of the iceberg as to how this will show up as automated sales activity, as opposed I'm sure AI driven, as opposed to actually humans talking to you who know who you are, who've done their research, and they know what you're talking about. They speak relevantly to you. But beyond that, I think that AI is going to create this interesting and opposite reaction, that it'll cause people to clamor for things that are real, things that AI can't do, things that only humans can do. Which kind of leaves, for one thing, cartoons in a great spot. Because if we use a cartoon to reach out to if I use a cartoon to reach out to someone, um, and it relates to what they're doing, but it's something that's going to give them a bit of joy and really deliver a bit of truth, because that's what humor is about. Well, then I've already made a much bigger impression than a generic, let's say, DM on through the email or on LinkedIn can possibly accomplish. So I think it's that we need to be focusing on the things that make us uniquely human, so that we create actual human to human connections. And the more we press that out of the process, I understand it from an efficiency standpoint, but the more we press it out of these processes, the more we make our businesses and what we're doing and our outreach just utterly impersonal. And we don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. And with AI advancing so quickly, it can be hard for people to, really just decipher, how can I get in touch with an actual person when this AI technology is kind of the first key touch point that customers connect with. And so it's definitely, important for that, the human behind that technology to really get in front and connect with the customer as well, and still have those kind of more nuanced conversations that AI is not really capable of, at least as of yet. So thank you. Awesome. And so, as we're continuing to think about the way that AI takes on these repetitive tasks, that may make, provide us with the time to invest more in, building these strong relationships. What is the best way for founders to kind of use their additional bandwidth? And, what uniquely human skills could they potentially focus on that really contribute to strong customer relationships with the help of AI?
Well, I think I want to bring Frank back into this, because
Yeah.
Frank has the reason why I know Frank and I'm so impressed with him is that he has some very, very interesting tools that make that process that you just asked about much deeper. And they're a great example of using AI to understand who someone is, but then say, okay, fine, I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
Frank, um, you produce these really interesting dossiers on people that you want to reach out to. Could you share with that? Would that be fine? Do you mind, Michelle,
Yeah,
if Frank
yeah,
shares?
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, so I do a lot of pre-call research, and I have both a software function that can look up somebody at scale. So if you have 4, 5, 600 clients, the AI can go out there and understand your clients and make inferences on their personalities and look at who they're speaking to and sort of build out a framework for how you should approach them, and then can take that information and put it right into your CRM so that a salesperson is ready for a conversation and has something more to say than just what do you do? And that's great. And there's custom AI tools that I'm building internally for that for my consulting clients, and then I have a team of researchers that go out there and build dossiers for higher value clients and kind of going over that. And I can certainly get an example of one of those just to take me a minute, and I can share that with the group and show you what that might look like. But
Yeah.
I think the idea is that all this manual work that I used to do as a salesperson, build a spreadsheet, go online and do research, take notes, and it was so manual, it took a long time. You can do that stuff at scale, and that leads to shortening the relationship cycle, which is
Mm.
more important than the sales cycle because when someone buys something from you, they know you, they like you, they trust you, and those things come from understanding them. And I actually did one of these reports on Colin, director, and that was how we first got introduced. Stu introduced me, and I kind of went through, and he has a great, interesting background, and I sort of went through that with him, and then I showed him some of that, some of what I uncovered, and people are always flattered to know that you took the time to learn
Yeah.
about them, learn about their company, and understand them on a deeper level, and that really makes them be able to sort of trust you a bit more and move the relationship on. And even if they're not going to become a client, they can become a friend and they can become a great referral partner. So it'll just take me a minute to share my screen. I'll grab an example
Yeah.
of these, and then Stu. In the meantime, you could tell a joke or something.
Let's see. Well, two guys. What? You know, just while we're doing this, I just the thing that has been a lot of fun. I'm producing, just putting the finishing touches. Actually, it's a deadline today to do this, but the updated edition of How to Get a Meeting with Anyone comes out in June, and I'm really excited about it because uh, this story of how AI is changing, it's changing everything, obviously, but how it's changing sales and how we'll find the people that we need to connect with, and then describe to us who they are. It's just that's just stunning stuff. Also, then yes, they're also exhibiting buying signals and going through trigger events that we might identify as being important to us. And when I talk about prospects, I think I know that a lot of entrepreneurs also use the book. So it's not just salespeople because entrepreneurs sell. We all sell,
Yeah.
actually, and we can't sell if we can't get meetings. So it's a pretty critical skill. And anyway, I'm just thrilled to be able to bring the book out, that new edition. So obviously things have changed since 2016 when the book came out. Work from
Yeah.
home and AI, as we've been discussing, all kinds of really
Absolutely.
interesting things that are taking place. But the really interesting thing, Michelle, is that all of those tactics that I described in How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, they haven't changed. I mean, I should say we don't need to change them, and their effectiveness hasn't changed at all. Really, it's still what we need to use to break through and connect with those people that can change our scale.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's definitely been interesting to see, the developments since that original version came out. So we put the link in the chat there. Would definitely
Oh,
recommend folks
good.
check that out. Frank, are you ready with that example?
I'm ready for that with that example. So this is just a real life example of a CEO, and he's a higher level prospect for my clients. So I'm just going to go over it quickly. But can you guys see this here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is sort of to understand them a little bit better, right? Their hobbies and their interests in life are really important. And then what we do is we have links to the examples of where they've traveled, and these links go back to social media, X or YouTube, and sort of just to understand something. And then we put something in somebody's own words, they say, and he's a pretty interesting, fascinating guy. YouTube is an amazing wealth of knowledge people don't use. People a lot of times jump on YouTube and talk about exactly what they want and what they're looking for and how they speak. And then we get into a bit of the work history, education. Alumni networks are so important. A fraternity, a sorority, a school, an association. Knowing these things ahead of time really helps. And then kind of going into cousins and a little bit of their family and understanding a little bit more about the client. And then we cite some social media to look at different relatives and different interests and hobbies and passions. And that's the idea. So basically, it's just doing a deeper dive on somebody and having a report like this for a high value client sort of ready to go. And you're going to have a much better conversation if you do that. So that's sort of the framework and the idea of it. And I have software now that can do most of this at scale, which is pretty incredible, and sort of looks at things exactly how I have my researchers do, and then is able to sort of take this information, put it into a CRM, so you can have 10 or 15 quality conversations with your real ICP using a band framework or whatever you use to kind of qualify clients and make sure that they're your right kind of client. But from the research I did here, he's a great prospect for my client. We know a lot about him, and hopefully we move forward. But this kind of thought, after you show it to somebody, hey, look, I did this on you. They're usually always flattered and they're excited to talk to you, and you differentiate yourself a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that example. Always so incredible to see. And it just kind of really reemphasizes, the importance of, understanding and defining that ideal customer profile. And, with the help of this kind of, intentional research into, prospects, hopefully you'll have folks will have an easier time identifying, who are those right people to talk to, and how can I really make an impression when having that conversation, when I do get a meeting with them, how do you make the most of it? So thank you so much. Wonderful. And then I just my last question before handing it off to you all is, what are some, as entrepreneurs are kind of, still figuring out how to really believe that AI is not going to replace them, and that they are still valuable and here to stay in the sales process. What are some qualities that you think are uniquely human, that entrepreneurs can bring into those sales relationships? Maybe they're still using AI driven interactions, and that's okay. But what qualities are really unique to the human in these interactions that they can, capitalize on?
Well,
Yeah,
oh, go ahead, Frank.
take it, Stu.
Oh, okay, good. Well, yeah, I was gonna share with you a quick little story that a friend posted to Facebook the other day, and he's in Barcelona and he goes to the gym, and he said um, they have three classrooms where the different exercise classes are held, and sometimes they have classes that are pre-recorded and that's up on a screen, sort of like Peloton. And then other times they have live instructors. And he said that when it's up on a screen, they're very lightly attended. It's maybe two or three people in the room using or taking the class. When it's a live instructor, it's packed. And we were both talking about the fact that really points to something about what is not changing in the face of AI, and that is that we want to connect with people. And so I think a lot of what you just described, Michelle, is that this is really just about showing, how do I put it? I don't want to keep saying showing up like a human, but you want to be curious. You want to be open. You want to listen to the person you're talking, or you want someone to listen to the person you're talking. Obviously, you have to scale with a team too, but
Yeah.
somebody's got to be listening to people, and they've got to connect as people. They can even connect in person. Obviously, that's not always practical, but the more we can connect I'm just in the same room, even the more we can do that. That's not changing. And the more we connect, let's say, I mean, because my specialty is really reaching out in a way that has people saying, "Oh my God, that was funny," or "Wow, that's really clever," or "I love the way you think." And AI doesn't do that. AI is amazing. I don't want to take anything away from it. And the things that people are figuring out to do with AI is amazing. But AI is still not going to, I don't know, they're not going to tell you a joke. They're not going to slap you on the, or let's say, put their hand on your shoulder, perhaps, and say, "Man, that was great," or "Hey, look over there. Can you see that?" And look what the sun's doing right now, or anything like that. The human experience is still rich and raw, and it's not changing because of AI. And again, AI is not something. I don't think AI is something to fear at all. I don't think your audience fears it as well either. I think they're probably very involved with it. But as a people, a lot of people are they're just fearful of it, and they do think that they do sort of have the fear that it's going to replace their jobs, take their jobs away. And I think in a lot of cases, if they lean into it and really learn about it, they're always curious about it. They're going to learn ways to use AI as an assistant. As an enabler, not as a replacement. It doesn't really replace anyone, but it is an assistant, and it does amazing things in that role.
Mhm. Love that. And I love kind of the examples you shared of, uh, you can still have these unique experiences as a human that AI is not capable of. And so when you are, connecting with another person, you have those kinds of nuanced conversations and interactions that build connection between you, and you see that that person understands you, that they respect you, and vice versa. And so that's really what can build that trust and foster that authenticity. So thank you both so much. This has been so wonderful. Stu, if you had, just any last thoughts, on kind of these questions about, the way that the role that AI is playing in the lives of entrepreneurs as in the sales function going forward. Would love to hear any final thoughts you have there before jumping into Q&A.
Sure, sure. Well, I noticed one of your sponsors is HubSpot for startups. And I thought, oh, that's great because HubSpot is a big player in the sales business, or in the sales, the sales um, um, uh, sector, and particularly business to business sales. And to see it coming over to, or crossing the divide, let's say, to entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are salespeople too, and so a lot of what we say, or a lot of what we do in sales, or a lot of the things that apply to sales, also apply to entrepreneurs who, I mean, after all, they're if they're I mean, it depends on where they are, obviously, in their process. But if they're in a burn rate situation and they don't have clients yet, well, they've got to get clients. They've got to get clients very quickly. If they need investors, well, those are sort of, in a way, they're sort of clients, and certainly they are prospects, and they are important contacts that the entrepreneurs have to connect with in order to make anything happen. So all of those elements of sales really do. I'm sure all of your audience probably completely understands this, but still, I'm just saying the obvious that what you're doing is selling. It's just selling and maybe on a different level than a sales rep might. But it's all very, very intensive selling. And so using the tools that AI is presenting to sales teams I think would make a lot of sense. Obviously, I'm sure. I don't know what HubSpot for founders is, but I imagine it's exactly that. I'm sure it's AI infused. Many of these tools are now, and that it is helping founders do what salespeople do, but at their level. It's a different level. Same thing though.
Yeah. Wonderful. Frank, Stu, this has been so awesome. If you are in the audience and you have a question for either Frank or Stu, please drop it in that Q&A function. We'll try to get to as many as possible here. So Frank, really, thank you so much for sharing that example of kind of, the deep dive research that you do into prospects. We have a few folks in the audience, wondering about, you know, are you using specific AI tools? Are you doing kind of manual research? How much time does it take you to get that kind of information on prospects? So, realistically.
So it used to be a lot more time intensive, and thank goodness I have a staff that helps me to put these together. Um, But I will say that I have a structure I've been using with my staff, and most of it was manual for years and years. And over the last 2 years, I've been designing some internal AI agents and sort of building them out to train them on what I look for. And I'm starting to automate the process. So we're getting to the point where I can do probably 90% of what I showed you. What I showed you was done by a very talented human being, but 90% of this can be done with AI at scale. So in the beginning, there's a lot of time. And I understand that when you're speaking to a client, sometimes if it's a low cost SaaS product, it's very hard to do this kind of research because it takes time and money and focus. But if you're selling higher ticket items, it certainly makes sense to go look at YouTube and do things. But the AI tools that I'm kind of developing internally look at all the social media platforms, kind of watch and transcribe all of the YouTube videos and pull inferences out of there, and then take it and put it into my client's CRM. So it's something I've been developing internally, and my clients are really liking it. So there are tools that do it, and there's a lot of different tools that do it, but I have a specific methodology, and what I want to do is train an AI agent, which are pretty fascinating to do it. So I've partnered with some great developers to do that. So I guess the long answer is it takes a long time to do it manually, but AI is making it easier and easier. And if you don't do it, it's really hard to, if you don't do it at some capacity, it's really hard to be successful in connecting as quickly as possible.
Frank, I should also just interject. I noticed that people are asking, what is the name of the tool you're using? And you do have a tool that you offer. I mean, Intro 6, isn't that?
Yeah. So
Probably shouldn't, you should answer I mean, sorry, what I mean to say is you should share that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so I'm building these tools, and it's something that's really kind of in beta. So intro6.com is the website, and I'm going to be listing some of the tools there. But these are internal tools that I've been building for 4 or 5 months, and I've been using them with current clients, so people who have relationships with. And what I'm doing is I'm having the AI agent that we're developing interface with Salesforce or HubSpot, do this at scale. So take your 100 prospects that you're looking to connect with, build reports like this, and then put it into the CRM. So Stu, it's beta, but it's coming. It's coming soon, and I'm probably going to be releasing a product over the next 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm also going to be, sharing some of the beta updates with my clients. They're really loving it. So yeah, intro6.com is the website I'm going to be using for it, but I've got to make some updates there. So the site is live, but I've got to make some updates to the tool there. So I guess it's in beta, but yes, Stu, it's coming.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, we put that in the chat, so check it out if you're interested. And then, kind of building off of something that you really emphasized there was the fact that you do have a team of folks that kind of support this process. And we have a few entrepreneurs in the chat here kind of asking about, how can you empower your team to create trust, interest, and really close those deals efficiently. And I guess at a more foundational level, like what do you view as, critical to, this kind of role that you're bringing on, to do this kind of customer research? What are those qualities that are important?
Well, I hire people, and I try to hire people with very specific skill sets. So I'm not good at many other things besides selling. So I hire people who are much smarter than me to design these tools and to do the research. But a lot of people that work for me on the research side have a background in crime fighting in some way, or criminal justice, and sort of like an OSINT framework. So people who have been detectives or people who have worked with law enforcement, they're incredible. And they're students that work in the field that do a lot of OSINT, so open source technology, and everything is out there, but it's not so easy to get together. When it comes to a person who does research, I hire a person who does research. When it comes to a salesperson, and a big mistake that entrepreneurs make, I think, in the beginning, is they hire salespeople without much clear direction, and they kind of haven't figured it out themselves. So the
Mm,
failure rate for hiring new salespeople is very high.
mm.
So the people who do research just do research, and the people who do my phone calls would just do that. So trying to be as specific as possible with the skill sets is important.
Yeah, love that, love that. Wonderful. We have another question here, and we actually got a similar question, and for those who signed up for the event originally. This person's asking, what are some practical ways to identify when a sales relationship is becoming transactional rather than authentic, and how do you bring it back to more meaningful connection? And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, um, eh, first of all, how do you bring it back to a more meaningful connection, but also, um, there is definitely, a sentiment around, sales relationships being transactional. So would love to hear your thoughts there, on just, your own sentiments there.
Yeah.
I'd love
So
to jump in a little bit on that.
get him, Stu. Yeah.
Because I think, when we're reaching out to people, we're talking about trust and credibility. And this goes also to the earlier question that um, how do you build trust? How do you build trust when you don't know each other yet? And I think the way that you do that is you do it by knowing something relevant about the person, not relevant, but pertinent, pertinent to why you're reaching out. So you know something about the person you're reaching out to, so that you know that there's actual value, that there's actual application for them right now, that there might be talking about it right now, or looking for solutions right now. And the other is that the way that you reach out needs to be it's kind of an audition, isn't it? Always, in any way that we introduce ourselves to someone else, we're sort of auditioning in a way, because, and that's particularly true in business relationships, we're showing our competence in how we reach out. So um, when one of my sources for one of my, well, actually, for how to get a meeting with anyone, is Dan Waldschmidt, and Dan sends, when he's reaching out to CEOs that are in trouble, missed earnings estimates, et cetera. He's a turnaround specialist. He sends a sword, $1,000 sword. He has it made up by the prop maker who made the all the swords for the movie Gladiator, and the swords are engraved with the CEO's name, and they're sent in this beautiful wooden box with a handwritten note. And the handwritten note says, "Dear Frank," because I see Frank on the screen. "Dear Frank, business is war, and I noticed you lost a battle recently. I just want to let you know, if you ever need a few extra hands in battle, we've got your back." Well, so no one was expecting a sword, but and I wouldn't really call it a gift, but it is a metaphor, a visual metaphor for what it is that Dan proposes to do for him. He's going to stand at this CEO's side and help them fight their battle and fight their way back to profitability. And so a lot of things that are nonverbal in that communicate a whole lot of competence, and it shows exactly how Dan works, and he doesn't think small. I mean, costs him $1,000 every time he sends one of those out. So I think the gestures and the quality of outreach, the things that we're doing, just to get their attention, perhaps, if we're talking about the very, very beginning of that sales relationship, um, just demonstrating competence and demonstrating that we know, we're very clear about why we're reaching out and why they should take the call. I think that's where trust initially comes from. And Frank, you have a really interesting story about using one of these reports to reach someone that your client just wasn't able to reach at all. And I think that might help with this question as well. I hope I'm answering it, but but I do think I mean, that's how we build trust and credibility in the first place, and that's sort of the whole basis of branding as well. But when we're reaching out to someone, when we're involved in a sales process, I think just showing competence and showing knowledge of the prospect or the client goes a long way toward solving what the person asking the question talked about.
Wonderful. Frank, any other thoughts you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I think that Stu's hits a nail on the head there. And the things that Stu writes about in his book are more relevant today. I think that when he wrote it, because the world's getting more and more noisy, and I make Stu's book required reading for any salesperson I'm training. There's 3 or 4 books that I talk about. Yep. So I've been a
Thanks.
good salesman of Stu's books for a very long time, and I'm honored to have him as a friend now. But as we met each other and we've spent time together, we've done things that humans do. We went on a hike together. I went to Seattle with him. We went to a conference together. So human to human connection is something that robots can't do because they're not human. And I think that those are the things that matter the most. And I guess what Stu was talking about, the story, to make it in like sort of a 20-second version of the story. A lot of people are hard to reach, but if you dig deep enough into their life, there are a lot of ways to kind of get in. And there was a very busy executive. I won't go into many details. Um, and a very successful woman. She was a C-suite executive, and I actually reached out to her husband, who I found had an interest in Little League, and I had the company that was my client sponsor that Little League and sort of meet with him, and it was kind of a sideway door in, and he introduced me to his wife. So there's always a way in, and with the internet, there's so much information out there. People just don't do enough homework and don't prepare themselves enough. So I think
Yeah.
that's a long answer, but that's the answer.
Yeah, amazing. Well, yeah, I love that story. I remember you telling me that, and it's
Yeah.
just such a great example and wonderful. I think we have time for one more question here, and I think this is great. This person is asking, how can we reestablish relationships with previous customers? Curious from both of you to hear your thoughts, around best practices there, the role of AI. Yeah, would love to hear your thoughts.
I'm going to jump in real quickly because another friend of mine wrote a book called The Million Dollar Win Back. I think it's something like that. But Dan Pfister, he'd be a great guest, and I'll introduce you to him afterward. Um, and he talks about the fact that reaching out to past clients and reopening these relationships is much more profitable on average than finding new ones. Certainly cheaper to do as well. And what he's found is that clients from our past are there are a lot of them that are definitely open to doing business with us again, but we have to be interested in what it is that stopped the flow of business in the first place. So reach out to them and ask them some questions. Just ask, not hey, can I sell to you, but can I ask you a few questions? Because we stopped working together, and I want to understand how that happened. And then you can also then accentuate new developments in the company or new ways that you're doing business that might help that client. And more times than not, those clients come back. And so I think I love Dan's work. Dan Pfister is the author's name, Pfister. And so you should check out his book.
Awesome. Wonderful. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Frank, any thoughts?
Add value.
Yeah.
Whenever I reach out to clients, I'm building out these
Mhm.
different softwares. I'm probably building 4 or 5 different softwares now, which are pretty going to be pretty interesting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have any previous client I've ever had. I'm going to send out sort of an email, say, "Hey guys, what's going on? I'm doing this thing. Here's the beta. You want to try it out?" And adding value. So when you're reaching out to a client, don't reach out with an ask. Reach out with a give.
Mhm.
And you should be doing this on a regular basis. And you should build this into the framework of your company, that you have touch points for clients on a monthly, quarterly, twice a year basis, where it's just built into the process. So it's just in your CRM, because your clients chose you, and that's a real honor to be chosen by a client to do business with. So you should be adding more and more value there, and you should always come to them with value. I happen to always run into interesting sales books and be able to be around great people like Stu. And if I have a new thing that I can share, I just share it. So don't go out there with an ask, go out there with a give. And then when you do that, conversations happen. They say, "Oh, you know what, Frank, thanks for sending this over. The software looks great. Maybe I'll try it. But also, we have another 3 hires we'd like you to train." And you want to just stay top mind. Everybody's very busy, and companies pay so much money for your time and attention. And we already have the attention and the audience with people who have bought from us. So why not use it? Finding a new client, like Stu said, is expensive, time consuming. And, if you just work your old clients and add a value to a network that you build, you can create a tremendous flow of business that goes on and on. Thank goodness I haven't looked for a client in a very long time because of that practice. So.
Amazing. Well, Frank, Stu, this has been so awesome. If would love to get, a key takeaway or piece of wisdom from each of you, just overall. Frank, we'll start with you.
Sure. Always add value. If when you're going to a networking event, and I always do this, I keep a very detailed list of all the people that I know, and there's always somebody that I'm meeting that can help somebody else. So I try to make it a practice to do 2, 3 intros a day to add value to other people, and it always comes back to you. So if you're in a room with somebody and you have a friend who's a realtor and there's somebody buying a house, make those intros and add value to your network. Add value, add value, add value. Don't ask, it'll just come. And there's a lot of people when they come up to you, they'll be asking and asking. Whenever I get a phone call from certain people, I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. What do you want? And I want to be the kind of person when I call you, it's like, oh, what do you have for me? If you change that mindset, everything changes.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Awesome. Stu, how about you?
Well, I would say that because we've talked a lot about AI today, that as AI continues to I'm going to say weave its magic, because I think that's what it is. I think it's just really amazing. But as it does that, and as it becomes more and more pervasive in society, we need to remember that I think the gold standard in all of this, the thing that drives business forward, is human to human connections.
Amazing. Stu, Frank, thank you both so much for taking the time and speaking to the NASDAQ Center community, sharing these insights and just such great examples as well. So on behalf of the center and everyone here today, we are just so thankful that you both joined us.
Thank you
Sure.
so
It's
much.
fun.
Awesome. And to our audience, we'd love for you to join us again for upcoming webinars, which you can view using those links that are going to be posted in the chat. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.